Hello world, my name is Jay Lopez and you're watching The Skeptical Investor. It is week 3 of our dividend investing experiment that we have titled Dividend Battles. Now before I go into today's video, I do want to let you guys know that this content I had originally planned to post a few weeks from now. But after finding out this weekend about Kobe Bryant's unfortunate passing, I figured that this topic was important to go over because it is something that is fresh in everyone's minds right now. Now, I'm not going to pretend that I was a die-hard Kobe Bryant fan. In fact, for the most part, I followed his sports career very little. I do remember, though, that as a kid, my dad would sit both my brother and I to watch NBA basketball games, and we were huge Michael Jordan and Chicago Bulls fans. And I do recall witnessing the amazing talent of that one young rookie that the Lakers had just signed on. Kobe went on to become one of the most iconic names in the history of the NBA, breaking and setting new records, but it wasn't until a few days ago that I actually learned who Kobe really was. See, he wasn't just a champion inside of the basketball court, but also outside. He was known for being an active member of the community, mostly spending a lot of his time to encourage and motivate kids and young adults. He was an investor, a philanthropist, an entrepreneur, but the more I researched his life over the last few days, it seems as though his greatest accomplishments was that of being a trustworthy friend, a loving husband, and an amazing dad to 4 young little girls. As a dad, I relate to Kobe because my wife is currently pregnant and due to give birth to our 4th child. We have 3 awesome, wild, and loud little boys, but this 4th one is going to be our long-awaited little girl. So I myself am about to experience what Kobe called being a girl dad. Now let's face it, nobody likes to talk about death. As humans going through this experience that we call life, death seems like a faraway event, when in reality, every single second that passes by just gets us closer to our deathbed. Kobe's accident this past weekend teaches us and reminds us of just how fragile life can be. So I want to dedicate this video to the memory and the legacy of Kobe Bryant. May we all strive to be better friends, amazing spouses, and over-the-top loving parents. Kobe certainly excelled at that till his very last breath as he held, comforted, and protected his little girl Gianna. Rest in peace, Kobe and Gianna Bryant. The main question in today's video is, what can we learn as investors from the horrible and premature death of Kobe Bryant? And I think the biggest lesson is that before you risk any of your money in the markets or in investments, you should de-risk your family's present and future as much as possible. So let's go over the 7 steps every investor should take before investing their money. Now be sure to stick around to the very end of this video because I've organized all these steps in order of priority, and number 7 is a very, very important step that you're going to want to listen to. Step number 1, have life insurance in place. Life insurance should be an essential component of every family's financial plan. As we just found out with this horrible incident this past weekend, life is short and unpredictable. So one of the best things you can do is plan for those unpredictable times by having a life insurance policy. Research shows that only 57% of US adults have a life insurance policy, and about half of those who do have insurance are actually underinsured. So clearly, there's a lot of misinformation and misconceptions out there when it comes to life insurance. You should know that the general rule of thumb is that every single adult who has dependents should have some form of life insurance. But in reality, every single person alive should have some sort of life insurance. Why, you may ask? Well, it's because dying is not cheap. I live in California, which is one of the most expensive places to live in the whole world. So it should come to no surprise that California is the 2nd most expensive state to die in. On average, it costs around $32,611 to die in California, with the standard cost of funeral services coming in at around $11,777 and medical expenses related to dying coming in on average at around $20,834. You'd think that by the time you died, you would have learned to stop spending money, but nope, not you, my friend. I won't go into a whole lot of details as to the different types of life insurances available and the differences between them, but what you should know is that it is not expensive as you might think, and getting life insurance is actually a fairly simple process. A relatively healthy, non-smoking adult in his mid-30s could buy term life insurance with coverage up to $500,000 for as little as $20 to $30 a month. That is a ridiculously low price tag to have to pay for peace of mind, knowing that your family would have a financial cushion in case of your untimely death. There are plenty of companies you can buy life insurance from. I would suggest for you to do a quick online search, or you can contact a local insurance agent as well. Also, if you'd like me to create a video on the different types of life insurances and how you can actually use that as an investment, be sure to click that like button so that I know that is something that you're interested in. But please do me a huge favor and don't let this step sit on the to-do list for too long. Step number 2, pay off all your negative and non-asset related debt for a guaranteed positive return on your money. There's 2 types of debt out there. There's bad debt that is tied to depreciating assets and liabilities, and then there's good debt that is actually tied to appreciating assets and cash flowing investments. In this video, I'm not going to go over these 2 in a whole lot of detail, but just know that you should pay off all of your credit cards, loans, lines of credit, etc. that do not make you money. Why? When you pay down bad debt, you automatically receive a guaranteed positive return on your money, and you also end up saving a ton of money on interest charges. Too many investors have too much bad debt, and yet they're chasing returns in the markets that are dwarfed compared to the 24% average APR that most credit cards have. Let's do some quick math. On average, the S&P 500 yields about 4 to 7% per year. So if you have credit card debt, it will be a much better use of your money to pay down and completely pay off those credit cards than to chase a much lower and non-guaranteed return in the stock market. Plus, being debt-free would help your family tremendously if one day you are not around. Step número 3. Reduce your essential monthly bills as much as possible. Living with a ton of bills every month is no fun, and neither is leaving your family with all those responsibilities. So working towards minimizing your monthly obligations is a great way to ensure your family won't be swimming against the current and drowning in bills. In life, there are essential expenses that we simply can't avoid, such as housing, utilities, food, transportation, etc. So it's important that you work towards trimming the fat around some of those. Now, this doesn't mean that you should go cancel Jimmy's music lessons tomorrow, forego all sports and extracurricular activities, stop going to the movie theaters, and you don't get to enjoy your life anymore. It simply means that you have optimized your spending on all the essential expenses of life so that they can be as low as possible. In our house, we just learned this lesson the hard way. We moved to a new place. It's our first real winter there. And I was trying to figure out if it was cheaper to run the gas wall heaters or the tiny little electrical heaters to keep the house warm. And I ended up choosing the small little heaters, even though I knew gas was, for the most part, cheaper than electricity. And lo and behold, we were smacked with a huge electricity bill for our last month of utilities. Step number 4, focus on passive income rather than earned income. Now, this is another topic that deserves its very own video, but in a nutshell, you should create enough monthly passive income streams so that your spouse doesn't have to work another day of his or her life to cover all of life's basic expenses. Step number 5, provide access to your investments. Make sure that your spouse has access to all your investment accounts, and be sure to have an outline investing plan in case of a tragedy so that your spouse knows exactly how you would manage all those investments. A simple step to take is to write down on a piece of paper all of your logins, your passwords, the basic contact information to all of your brokerages, perhaps the name and contact info for the financial advisor who is helping you manage that particular account. Also, outline specifically how you would manage that investment. If you have an exit plan, and be as specific as possible, because chances are your spouse is not going to know how you would have managed that investment. Step number 6, be sure to have a will in place, and also once you accrue enough assets and investments, make sure that you set up a trust. A trust will help everyone know exactly how they should manage everything that you left behind. All right, so before we go into step number 7, let's log in and check in on the status of our M1 Finance portfolio. Okay, so we're in our portfolio now, and it looks like the value of the portfolio dropped a bit this last week. It's sitting at around $988.11. And just like last week, REITs are actually beating all of our expectations because those are at the very top, followed by high growth stocks, which makes a lot of sense because we've seen a huge rally in high growth stocks in the last week or so. Now our Pro Shares, which is the Aristocrats ETF, is actually a little bit down, and so is our SPDR High Dividend ETF. And the high yield stocks are actually doing fairly bad. They've lost about 6.21%, which it means that they're down by $12.42. And I like what I'm seeing here because high yield stocks tend to be a little bit tricky. Some people will call this a yield trap because companies sometimes will actually elevate their yield so it attracts investors, and you end up buying the stock thinking that you're going to get this huge yield, but the price of the actual stock itself goes down quite a bit. It's a bit volatile. So I like what I'm seeing here because all these stocks are actually reacting just the way that we would expect them to. Again, the REITs is definitely something that is interesting to me because all of these are doing really, really well. I mean, you look at that Vanguard REIT ETF, it's up 1.68%. Crown Castle International is up by 5.47%, which is really, really good. I like Crown Castle because Crown Castle is a bit of an interesting REIT. They're not actually invested into real estate the way that you and I think about it. They actually invest into cell towers. And Crown Castle is actually poised to do very, very well because of 5G. They lease out all these towers, and with the introduction of 5G, a lot of companies are going to have to lease all these towers from Crown Castle to be able to have coverage for 5G technology. So Crown Castle is definitely a REIT that I'm very, very interested in, and it's performing really, really well. Actually, next week when we deposit more money, I wanted to potentially invest more money into Crown Castle and make this position a lot larger in my portfolio. So that's something that we're probably going to be doing next week. But again, all these REITs are performing really, really well. Even Realty Income, which again, they actually invest into real estate connected to retail stores, and they're up 3.50%. So that's really, really awesome. I am a huge real estate fan, so I like that REITs are doing well because it tells me that if I don't want to invest into more physical real estate like I have already, REITs is definitely a good way to just invest my money and deploy it and still somewhat be invested into real estate even though it's not physical. I'm just investing into companies who then invest into different real estate type of investments. So I'm really happy to see these results. As always, thank you so much for sticking around to the very end of this video. And last but definitely not least, coming in at number 7, this is the most important step in my opinion. You should show and tell all your friends, family, children, and spouses that you love them tonight. Spend as much time as you possibly can with them. Make them laugh, hold them, and hug them. Never go to sleep without having made peace with them when arguments arise. Be quick to forgive and know that how well you love them is the single best investment and legacy you can leave behind to them. Because no person ever under deathbed wishes they would have worked more, they would have invested more, they would have bought a certain stock. Most people on their deathbed regret having worked so much and having spent so little time with their family and loved ones. Don't forget, next week, we're actually going to be investing another $1,000 into these accounts. I would love to hear what stocks you think would be great for all these different portfolios. So be sure to write those down in the comment section. Also, be sure to click the like button And also click the subscribe button if you'd like to keep up with all these experiments. Thank you so much for watching. As always, stay invested, be blessed, and especially tonight, be sure to hold, hug, and kiss your loved ones. Thank you for watching, and see you next week.